Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got that foundational text on behavior change you sent over, and today we're heading right into the engine room, chapter 3 specifically.
That's right, the core stuff.
Yeah, our mission today is really to unpack this core framework, these 4 simple steps that seem to dictate, well, pretty much every action you take, good or bad. It's like the universal translator for, why you do what you do.
And that universality, that's absolutely the key takeaway here, I think. What we're looking at is the fundamental structure.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're trying to, say, write a novel or just stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. The psychological mechanism underneath it all, it's the same.
So it's reliable.
It's this constant structure for human action, how habits get built, no matter the context. It's incredibly reliable.
Okay, so let's dig into that. To really get this modern habit stuff,
Yeah.
you're saying we need to go way back, like 1898, cats in boxes.
Yeah, sounds a bit strange, maybe, but that's where it starts. Edward Thorndike and his puzzle boxes, that's really the genesis.
Huh? So what did we learn from cats trying to get out of boxes?
Well, it's the absolute elemental learning process. Thorndike wasn't looking at, complex human stuff, just simple animal behavior.
Okay.
And the big principle from watching those cats figure out how to escape and get food, he called it the law of effect. Basically, actions that lead to good stuff, satisfying consequences, they get repeated.
Makes sense.
And things that lead to, well, uncomfortable stuff, they tend to happen less often. Simple stimulus, response, reward.
Okay, cats. Law of effect. Got it. But fast forward to now. Our brains are pretty sophisticated. Why do we even need habits if we can think consciously about things?
Because the brain is all about optimization. And believe it or not, the conscious mind, it's the bottleneck.
Really? How so?
Well, you can really only focus on one demanding problem at a time consciously. So the brain's main goal when it forms a habit is to reduce that cognitive load.
Sure.
Habits are basically these mental shortcuts, right? Learned from what worked before. They let the non-conscious mind handle the routine stuff.
Which frees up the conscious part.
Exactly. Frees up your attention for the bigger picture, the new problems, creativity, survival, all that important stuff.
So we're kind of outsourcing the routine tasks to our subconscious using past wins. That's actually pretty smart.
It's an incredibly efficient survival strategy, the ultimate energy saver, really.
Okay, so this drive for efficiency leads us to this universal pattern, this habit loop. You're saying every habit, good or bad, follows 4 stages, always in the same order.
Always the same order. That's the backbone.
All right, let's list them out quickly, then dive in. It starts with the cue, right?
It's a cue, yeah. That's the trigger. Some piece of information, could be anything, that predicts a reward is nearby. It kicks a whole cycle off.
Okay, cue. Then comes what you said is maybe the most critical part in this newer model, the craving.
The craving, yes. This is really where the motivation comes in. It's the driving force.
So it's not wanting the habit itself.
No, exactly. It's wanting the change in state the habit promises. You don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief it provides. And neurologically, the anticipation of that change is often even more powerful than the change itself.
Wait, hang on. Anticipation. You mentioned dopamine earlier, right?
Yeah.
Where does that fit in? Is it released when you get the reward or before?
That's such a crucial point this material clarifies. Dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical you get after. It spikes in anticipation of something rewarding. It's the neurochemical signal for the craving itself. It literally drives you to seek out the reward. The craving's purpose is to push you towards that next step.
Which is the response.
Precisely. The response, that's the actual action you take or even the thought you have. It's the habit itself being performed. It needs some energy, mental or physical.
Got it. Cue, craving, response, and the final piece.
The reward. This closes the loop. Well, first, it has to satisfy that initial craving. If it doesn't, the loop weakens. And second, crucially, it teaches the brain. It says, hey, remember this sequence. Cue led to craving, led to response, led to this satisfying feeling. Do it again next time.
So the reward is both the payoff and the teacher.
Exactly. Payoff and teacher.
And thinking about rewards, it's interesting how they've kind of evolved, right? Our ancestors were after, basic survival stuff, food, water, safety.
Primary rewards.
But now we're chasing things like money, status, approval. These seem way more abstract.
They seem abstract, but the underlying motives, they're identical. Deep down, we're still wired for survival and reproduction.
So how does getting a like on social media connect to survival?
Well, think about it. Praise, approval, status, these things in our evolutionary past meant better social standing, more resources, better mating opportunities, security. inclusion. So chasing money or a promotion or even just that feeling of satisfaction from checking email, it's indirectly tapping into those ancient drives. We're still chasing the feeling of winning at survival, even if the cue is just a notification sound.
Let's make this concrete. The book uses some good examples.
Mm-hmm.
That phone habit nearly everyone has. Walk us through the loop.
Oh, yeah, it's a lightning fast. So, cue. Your phone buzzes or lights up. Instantly, there's the craving. You want to know what it is. Is it important? Is it social connection? Is it just relief from boredom? That dopamine kicks in, anticipating something.
Right.
The response. You grab the phone, unlock it, read the message, or check the app, and the reward. You satisfy that craving for information or connection or distraction. Boom. Loop complete. Brain learns. Phone buzz equals potential quick fix.
Okay, that's a common one.
Yeah.
What about a bad habit, like, say, biting your nails when stressed?
Same pattern. Cue. You're maybe working on something tough, emails piling up, you feel that tension, that overwhelm, the craving hits hard. You desperately want to feel less stressed, more in control, just some relief. The response, biting your nails. It's readily available.
And the reward?
The reward is that immediate, albeit tiny, sensation of relieving tension. It does something to shift your state, even if it's ultimately unhelpful or destructive. But that little bit of relief reinforces the link. Overwhelm. Bite nails for quick, temporary ease.
So the craving is like this. Emotional engine. Wanting relief, wanting info, wanting control.
Yeah.
That's the fuel?
That's the perfect word for it. Desire is the engine. And here's the kicker. Every single action you take, conscious or not, is preceded by a prediction that it will lead to some kind of reward. Always.
Wow. Okay, so we've got the theory down. Cue, craving, response, reward. But this deep dive isn't just theory, right? It's about how we use it. And that's where the 4 laws come in.
Exactly. The 4 stages tell you how habits work. The 4 laws tell you what to do about it. They're the practical application, the blueprint for change.
So the stages are diagnostic, the laws are prescriptive.
You got it. The laws are basically levers you can pull to influence each stage of the loop.
Okay, so if you want to build a good habit, the laws line up perfectly with the stages. Let's run through them.
Yep.
Law 1 targets the cue. Make it obvious.
Make the trigger clear and visible.
Law 2 targets the craving. Make it attractive.
Make the prospect of doing it desirable.
Law 3 targets the response. Make it easy.
Reduce the friction. Make it simple to perform.
And Law 4 targets the reward. Make it satisfying.
Ensure the ending feels good, reinforcing the loop.
Let's pause on that third one. Make it easy. This feels like where a lot of people stumble. They think habit change needs massive willpower, huge effort. But easy sounds different.
It's fundamentally different. It's about designing your environment and the task itself to require the least amount of activation energy. Friction is the enemy of habit formation.
So like if you want to go running.
The 3rd law says, lay out your running clothes the night before. Put your shoes by the door. Make the starting of the action as frictionless as possible. It's not about making the run itself effortless, but making the initiation effortless.
That leads to that 2-minute rule idea, doesn't it?
Exactly. When you start a new habit, scale it down so it takes less than 2 minutes to do. Read 1 page, do 1 push-up, meditate for 60 seconds. Make the entry point ridiculously easy, almost laughably so.
So you're not aiming for the full marathon on day 1. You're just aiming to put your running shoes on. The focus shifts from outcome to just starting.
Precisely. You master the art of showing up first, and conversely, for bad habits, you invert the law, make the response difficult, increase the friction, want to watch less TV, take the batteries out of the remote and put them in another room, want to stop checking your phone, leave it in a different part of the house while you work, make it annoying to do the bad habit.
Okay, that makes sense. And the 4th law, make it satisfying. We talked about dopamine and anticipation. Does the immediate reward still matter that much?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a huge challenge in modern life because our brains evolved to prioritize immediate rewards. Survival often depended on quick payoffs.
Right, eating the sweet fruit now.
Exactly. But many good habits have delayed rewards. Working out today feels hard, and the results, better health, weight loss, are weeks or months away. Bad habits, though, eating junk foods, scrolling social media, the reward is instant.
So the brain's default wiring favors the bad habits in that sense.
It can, yeah. So the 4th law says, if you're building a good habit with a delayed return, you must find a way to attach some form of immediate satisfaction to completing the response.
Like what? Putting a check mark on a habit tracker, transferring $1 to a savings account after skipping a latte.
Perfect examples. Something tangible, immediate, that signals progress and feels good right away. It bridges the gap until the long-term rewards kick in. If you're struggling, the book insists the problem always lies in one of these 4 laws being violated. You're fighting human nature if it's not obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
This framework, cue, craving, response, reward, it feels more complete than some older models people might know. Like you hear about Skinner's stimulus response reward or even cue routine reward from other popular books. What's the key difference here? Why add craving?
That's a great question. The older models, especially Skinner's behaviorism, were brilliant at explaining how external triggers influence actions. The bell rings, the dog salivates, they saw the stimulus and the response.
But they kind of skipped over what happens inside the organism.
Exactly. Skinner was very focused on observable behavior, things you could see and measure externally. They didn't really have a mechanism to account for the internal state, the thoughts, the feelings, the desire.
So the craving step brings the internal world back into the picture.
Precisely. It acknowledges that our subjective experience, our emotions, our expectations, our interpretations of a cue is fundamental to motivation. It's not just cue leads to response, it's cue triggers a craving based on predicted reward, and that craving drives the response. It integrates the external world with our internal state.
Which feels much more human. It explains why the same cue might trigger different responses in different people, or even in the same person at different times, depending on their internal state they're craving.
Absolutely. It allows us to understand why we act, not just that we act in response to something. And that understanding is crucial if you want to consciously design better habits, rather than just being pushed around by stimuli and rewards.
So where does something like willpower fit into this? Is it just irrelevant if the system is set up right?
Well, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but maybe overrated or misunderstood.
How so?
The framework suggests that you only need significant willpower when the habit isn't designed well according to the 4 laws. If it's not obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, you have to rely on sheer effort, on forcing yourself.
And that runs out.
It's a finite resource. The goal isn't to have more willpower, it's to design your habits in your environment so that less willpower is required in the first place. Make the right thing the easy default thing.
So successful people aren't necessarily the ones with the most willpower, but maybe the ones who are better at designing systems around their behavior.
That's a huge part of it, yes. They understand, maybe intuitively, how to make good habits fit the grain of human nature.
Okay, wrapping this up then, what's the core lesson you think people should take away from understanding this 4-step loop?
I think it's that this pattern, cue, craving, response, reward, is the silent, universal language your brain uses for almost everything you do automatically. Just knowing it exists, becoming aware of it in your own life, that's the first massive step toward having more control. You start to see the matrix, so to speak.
You can observe your own programming before trying to rewrite it.
Beautifully put. Observe before you intervene.
And the final takeaway, the big picture idea.
It's that while life changes constantly, your goals, your environment, your challenges, these principles of behavior are remarkably stable. This framework gives you reliable levers to pull, predictable ways to influence your actions, and, ultimately, build a better life, however you define that. Human behavior isn't random, it follows these laws.
Every action is a vote for the person you want to become. That phrase really sticks.
It does, because it highlights that change happens at the level of these tiny repeated behaviors,
Yeah.
all driven by that prediction of reward, that craving.
Right. So here's the thought to leave everyone with. Since this framework shows that every single choice starts with predicting a reward triggered by a cue and fueled by a craving, what's one immediate tiny adjustment you could make today? Think about just one of the 4 laws. Can you make a good cue slightly more obvious? Make a desired habit a tiny bit more attractive? Make the first step ridiculously easy? Or add a small, satisfying reward right after? Don't aim for a massive overhaul. What's the smallest possible tweak you can engineer in the system right now to make your next action a vote for who you want to be?